Mr. Speaker.
Mark Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, firstly, I'd just like to start by acknowledging the Honourable Jerry Brownlee, our Minister of Defence, who launched our Defence White Paper this afternoon with the Prime Minister, with the Chief of Defence Forces and with our Secretary of Defence, Helen Quilter. And I'd also like to acknowledge the Minister because he very kindly extended an invitation to both myself and the Leader of the Opposition, Andrew Little, to accompany him recently up to Iraq and Camp Taji to go and visit our troops up there and have a look and see how the mission was going. I'm going to come back to that. I just want to speak very quickly about the Defence White Paper because I was heavily involved in the consultation phase of this, and I was very happy to hold and host 3 meetings, one with the Warkworth RSA, one with the Wellsford RSA, and we also went up to the Kerikeri RSA. I just want to acknowledge the Chief of Army, General Peter Kelly, and also the Deputy Secretary of Defence, Tony Lynch, because they both attended these meetings also, and I think that highlighted just how important the consultation phase on the Defence White Paper was.
That's right.
One of the things that came through very strongly, and obviously there was a lot of detail, and a lot of the submitters wanted to talk about capital investment and equipment, which is important, and that's been captured in the White Paper document. But the one thing that did come through very strongly, and I just wanted to highlight in the House tonight, is just how important the men and women in our New Zealand Defence Forces are now and into the future. And to highlight that, I'd just say that one very, very common theme that came through from all the submitters and all the meetings that we held is that the personnel within our Defence Force are the most important capability we have. Without well-trained, experienced people who are motivated and committed to the organisation, no capability will ever reach its true potential. And that is very true, and therefore, Mr. Speaker, today in my general debate speech, I just want to acknowledge all our Defence Force personnel, whether they be at home or whether they be serving overseas. And I want to acknowledge their families as well, who also make a sacrifice when they're away. If I can just refer very quickly to our mission in Taji, because I personally was very interested in this because I was involved back in 2005, 2006, in the initial training program that was established for the newly formed Iraqi security forces. And we'd be naive not to acknowledge and say that there's not some big challenges in Iraq in terms of the quality of personnel that's available, the different loyalties and where those allegiances lie, and an essential government that has to be able to deal with those things. But that shouldn't stop us from constantly working and trying to increase the support and the level and the quality of those troops that ultimately are tasked to going out and meeting this threat of ISIS or Daesh. And the one thing that I noticed is that we were very lucky while we were in Taji is that one of the divisions that had been on the front line had just returned from the front line in Ramadi, and had actually just liberated Ramadi, which is a very important strategic town in Iraq, and they'd pushed Daesh out. They've been very, very successful. This was a combat division that had come back to Taji to get some further updated training and also have some junior leadership training delivered by our Anzac mission with the Australians at Taji. The thing that struck me was this, is that number one, they were just very pleased to be back. Their attendance numbers were up. And back in 2005, 2006, when the Iraqi troops turned up, and let's take the Tactical Support Unit, for example, which was more or less a special forces unit, even they would turn up pretty ragtag. They wouldn't have uniform footwear on. Often the footwear that was issued to them would disappear. They wouldn't be, they wouldn't have standard uniform that was issued to them. The one thing that I noticed about the troops that were coming back into Taji is that they were very, very well presented and well turned out. And I think that I use that as actually a bit of a meter for me to say, you know what, the Iraqi security forces are getting better, the quality of the training is getting better, the way that they deploy is getting better, and that can be judged off the way that they actually turn themselves out and the pride that they take in their own appearance. the one thing that was highlighted through all our meetings, and I have to say that I was actually very proud of our own Defence Minister and the way that he presented and advanced our own interests and stated our case in terms of how we see the deployment in Iraq. Am I out of time?
Yeah, your time's gone.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Speak.
Right, mate.